And just like that, we are into our final session of the Business of Data Festival Summer Edition 2022. Thank you so very much for joining us again. Now, we are going to be talking all about cloud capabilities and transformation in 2022 in just a moment. Now, it does look like we are experiencing some technical difficulties on my side, so we're just going to wait a moment for our speaker to come back into stage. But this does give me the excellent opportunity to do a quick bit of plugging. Now, across the last 2 days, we have mentioned the resource area. Do make sure you head into that. We have reports, we have white papers, we've got loads of fantastic things you can download and dive into there. Make sure you do. It has been asked in the chat. Yes, you will receive everything on demand in the next few days, so you can rewatch some sessions as well. And don't forget, you can also nominate yourself now for the North American Business of Data Awards, and more about that a bit later. But for now, it is my pleasure to welcome to the virtual stage Drew Buikema, who's a Senior Business Intelligence Specialist for Elite Transit Solutions. Drew, please do take it away.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. Like Catherine said, I work for Elite Transit Solutions on the business intelligence team. And thank you for joining me this afternoon. We're going to talk a little bit about our cloud capability transformation. I'm kind of laying it out here in the form of a little bit of a story. And being that this is one of the later presentations in the day, I figured this might be a bring your own beverage presentation. That's a tradition here around the office. Please feel free to grab a pint or a cocktail and let's get started. I'm going to begin by kind of setting the stage with where we started in this process, a little bit of a background on the company and the business intelligence team. I'm going to touch briefly on some of the language and jargon that's kind of used throughout these processes and try and get to what that meant to us. We're going to spend the most time talking about what we were considering at a business planning level, what in our business kind of constrained this process as we moved to the cloud, and what we were looking to get out of it. I've got a little bit of a conversation then about the work. Really, as we did this, where did we really spend our time, and what was that like? And then to wrap things up, we're going to talk about how things are today and what we really expect to get out of this analytics platform, the cloud transformation kind of going forward. So let's get into things. Elite Transit Solutions is smallish, mid-sized business. It was right around 200 coworkers when we began this process of migrating our analytics to the cloud. We are primarily freight brokers, so we manage semi-trucks for businesses around the country. The past few years have seen incredible disruption in supply chains, and that's meant that the company has seen rapid growth. And we've really kind of needed to take that into account and plan for that as we make decisions about the business intelligence team and the analytics platform that we're going to be using. Across the logistics industry, I've seen this at other companies as well. I would say people are very good at communicating and kind of being responsive leaders, reactionary leaders. We aren't quite as good at what I might call data literacy. And you're going to see some kind of aspects of that we brought into our choice of data platform, and how we can kind of leverage these new tools to improve that. The business intelligence team is relatively small within the company, and we handle a broad variety of responsibilities. Traditional things like internal and customer data. They're across supply chain and logistics. There's a large amount of external data management that we're doing. That could be things like geographical tracking, as well as our customers' kind of transportation management systems, their software platforms. The team also handles internal auditing and investigation projects And it was important to us that as we kind of move to the cloud, we kind of can't leave those responsibilities behind. We've got to be able to kind of incorporate all of the different projects that the team takes on. In terms of my own assessment of the business intelligence team, we as people typically come with a lot of operational experience, and we're not as heavy into kind of data management and that kind of analytics and statistics background. So solutions that are very heavy on coding, statistics, data management wouldn't necessarily work the greatest for us. All right. Let's head over to touch briefly on kind of the language that I see and that we come across in these transitions. I try to really kind of focus on communication when interacting with business leaders and at any of the kind of users of our data products. And I definitely have some frustrations when it comes to kind of the language, the business jargon that we see in this type of a transition. My father is a carpenter, and when they are considering using a new tool, the example here being levels, just because you switch to something, it's really, you're focusing on problem solving, and it's about finding and building better tools. And so that's how I approach the project or the concept of digital or cloud transformation. You see data-driven decision-making kind of across management, across the industry. And to me, it really comes down to the second half of that phrase, right? It's about, do you have a system for making decisions? And do business leaders understand how to plan for evaluating those transitions? And those are the type of concepts that I have tried to communicate with business leaders as we've moved to a cloud analytics platform. So let's kind of dig into what we considered when we were evaluating cloud platforms that were out there. Relatively small budget for the business intelligence team. We were very budget conscious. We wanted to start with a small group of users. You're going to see there are some, we have a number of developers in the company, but they were completely tied up in other projects. So that meant that we had to kind of perhaps not follow a perfect development plan for the way this platform rolled out. And to get to that part on communication, I really want the platform to support improved communication with the objective of improving data literacy across the organization. From a business value perspective, Microsoft Power BI was really more competitive than the other major providers out there. We're a Microsoft shop already, and ultimately that's what we came down to. By all means, that kind of top line budget was certainly a big part of the decision. We had to kind of tailor our timeline, or perhaps what might be a more expected maturity path, because within the company, we did not have a traditional data warehouse or even a SQL server that was available to the business intelligence team. So you're going to see that we made a number of decisions to kind of manage the data across static files and plan for that more robust data warehousing in the future. Additionally, it was important to kind of business leaders, and we communicated to them what kind of just saved labor costs this move to the cloud would mean for us. We estimated somewhere between 4 and 6 hours per specialist per week for the project. That's just less time actually doing the labor of running the reports. And I would say in the end, we came pretty darn close to those estimates. From a strategy perspective, like I mentioned, our developers were really focused on this major version update. And so we chose to do the data visualization and reporting portion of our cloud migration first. That's really what we focused on with Power BI. The cloud platforms also give us a lot more ability and flexibility to enforce data security. And that's really the case across all of those cloud platforms, but it was really one of the advantages that that sunk in with business management. They certainly understood how our old habits of emailing data and reports across the company was not really enforcing any kind of data security. All right. And to touch on that kind of communication again, one of my goals for our cloud migration, cloud transformation, is that I wanted business leaders to kind of communicate and engage with these reports and data products in communication channels that we already use. I didn't want to have to kind of enforce new software or new processes. I want people to be able to interact with the reports where they are and keep that kind of software or learning new software products overhead to a minimum. And both are the aspect that the company is kind of diverse geographically, but also runs 24/7. Keeping that communication focused is really important. All right. Now let's head over to the work itself. I really look at what we were doing in terms of day-to-day in this project to fall into one of two buckets. Either you're working on integrating our tools. In the end, a cloud analytics platform really is just a bunch of websites unless these tools integrate well with each other. I think you all have probably heard that in a number of presentations throughout this conference. That integration part is really important to nail down. I would say probably about 60% of our time has been spent in really locking that in. The majority, or the majority of the rest of the time, let me say, has been about connecting people. And I think that is along the lines of having conversations with the senior leaders, managers, and teams about what kind of reporting they need, what are the things that they need to be getting out of our cloud analytics platform. And as I mentioned there's some small other point of time went into training the internal business intelligence team. We did have some expertise with Power BI, but by all means, everyone on the team needed to get better in order to really make this succeed. So our cloud environment is kind of that Power BI Pro per user setup. That allows the budget to be scalable. We're currently at 35 managers and senior leadership involved in the program, with the view that getting them engaged in things will help kind of drive user interest throughout the company. We've split them into 5 functional workspaces, which really help in those cloud platforms to be able to kind of organize your data sets, and your reports and dashboards, all of that kind of stuff. Organize it kind of functionally into workspaces, and we've had a kind of easier time managing permissions and that data security perspective. We also have a separate workspace in the environment for report development and validation. To touch on one point, if you find yourself evaluating these platforms, Power BI Pro is on the weak side when it comes to that development workflow and version control. I certainly would like to see it in a better place. And at some point down the line, we may have more budget. Their higher tiered programs offer much more in terms of those capabilities. Kind of one of the unexpected things that we saw out of this was discussions that would happen around the cloud platform that have previously happened in meetings, in phone calls. It really helps to be able to have that conversation, maybe in a Power BI or a business intelligence Teams channel, or within the reports directly. Those conversations are saved. And in an industry where there's a lot of churn, where people work 24/7 and they don't always have a conversation when they're handing off responsibilities, having that documentation right there at the team or report level has meant that we've really improved our knowledge sharing. All right. To kind of visit on where we are going with this, the whole effort has really been focused on kind of cementing a practice of thinking analytically, of understanding how to evaluate decisions that we as a company are making. And we are making continual but slow progress in that direction. Our efforts to kind of engage with senior leadership first has been helpful. We continue to expand our user base by typically 3 to 5 users per month, which is a pace that allows us to still kind of keep close data security measures in place, but ultimately kind of reach our goal of engaging as much of the company as possible. Overall, I would say that engagement with these reports is not where we want it, but all of our previous practices had absolutely no metrics about where engagement stood. And so when we migrated to that cloud environment, you're able to get analytics about actual engagement in the reports, in the data sets, in your dashboards. And so in some sense, we now have numbers about those products for the first time. One of the things I also wanted to, it was kind of a stretch goal perhaps, would be to kind of have a must-have data product. And I would say we haven't hit that yet. We certainly have met stakeholders' needs when it comes to data products, but to have a report or a tool within the company that kind of catches on and almost like spreads by word of mouth really helps, I would say, kind of build the reputation for the analytics team and the business intelligence practice overall. And we're not there yet. We have a couple of ideas of some predictive models, which in supply chain is a real challenge, but we're hoping some of those kind of predictive tools may reach that point of a must-have data product. I also mentioned kind of early on in the project that we had some constraints around development time and had not been able to really build that data backend that I would typically want in place before beginning the kind of cloud migration, before beginning that move to Power BI. And we are just now kind of working on a proof of concept for that data store. And so overall, the project has missed in some places and exceeded us in some place, our expectations in some places, and surprised us in some places. As I kind of wrap up from this, I would very much be interested in any of your questions or experience with projects in terms of the cloud migration.
Absolutely awesome. Thank you so much, Drew. Really very interesting and engaging presentation there. And yes, we do have a few minutes, so if you do have any questions, please do pop them in. But just from my side, I think it was, I really loved that point what you were saying about meeting them where they are. I think that's such a powerful thing to say. And I think we can sometimes go a bit gun-hos and we kind of go in and we want to do all these transformations, but actually in terms of having that engagement and partnership, it is important to acknowledge where they are on that journey, and as you say, meet them where they are. So I thought that was really great.
Absolutely. You find all degrees of data literacy across the logistics industry, and if you don't do that, you're going to lose a lot of people, and people who are important to the overall mission of business intelligence and analytics.
Yeah, for sure. And you were saying there about the challenge or potential, just having that awareness of having the lack of previous knowledge of engagement levels in those reports and now having them as well. And I think that's really important as a key message. And I certainly really heard that from you, in that you don't hold yourself at too much of a sadness if people aren't engaging, and it's a case of, oh goodness, I didn't know that. But at least now you have that number to know, which I think is really powerful. And obviously we've just had a question come in here from Nelly asking, can you share what type of cloud solution you chose for your data transformation? Are you able to share that with us, Drew?
So our cloud transformation was really moving from those kind of static files, Excel files, CSV files, where we built reports. And now all of our reporting is in Power BI. That's the environment that we went with. And overall, it has been, it's met our needs. I'm not here to say that given a different budget, I would make the exact same decision, but kind of all of these choices are made within constraints, and it really met our needs well. In terms of perhaps that, the questioner was asking kind of more about like your data management backend. We're still evaluating solutions like Azure and Snowflake for that kind of backend data management. We've got our team of developers will be free from their version update here relatively soon, and then we're going to really be kicking that project off in full.
That's very exciting. I'm certainly going to have to confirm you for a podcast, perhaps, to talk about that when you're in that moment. But amazing. Well, Drew, thank you so much for joining us today. Really very insightful conversation, and have very much enjoyed the presentation.
Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate the opportunity, and anyone on the call, please don't hesitate to reach out if you've got a question or a comment or criticism. I'm open to any kind of communication. Thank you, and have a good afternoon.
Thank you, Drew. Now, just before we wrap up here, I will be taking the opportunity just to plug once more the deadline on Monday for the North American Business of Data Awards. Obviously, we know from 2 days of fantastic talent, there are some amazing thought leaders out there. And if you yourself would like to have a bit of success shouted about your team, about a peer, about a mentor, perhaps even someone up and coming, we had that conversation earlier about talent, then please do check out the Business of Data Awards. It's going to be a really fantastic evening. It's part of our Chief Data Analytics Officer Fall event in October in Boston. So it's going to be a real celebration. The data analytics community don't tend to do this very much, so it's going to be a black tie gala. It's going to be really great fun. There are 13 categories for you to enter, so there's lots and lots of choice, and you can decide which category you best fit in that. And as I mentioned, you could do it as self-nomination or peer nomination as well. And the deadline is midnight ET on Monday. And I don't think we're going to be moving it, because we really need to be getting on with the judging process, because that involves 30 global leaders from around the world. So it's going to be very much judged by your peers. But I'll leave you with that. You can find the link on the platform that will take you to the page and to the nomination guide, which will give you all the information you will need. But we'll head into our wrap up now.